I want to talk about a great young Jaguar with some horrible food takes, but he can really, really play. Anton Harrison. We'll talk about it in just a second here on Locked On Jaguar.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That is right. It is your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars, and we thank you for making us your first listen. I am Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast that you can find on our YouTube page. Head on over to Locked On Jaguars on YouTube. Make sure you hit the like button and the subscribe button, and then hit the bell so that you receive notifications each and every time we drop an episode. You do the same thing wherever you get your audio podcast. Make sure you check into that location each and every day to make sure you do not miss an episode of Locked On Jaguars. And shout out to the everydayers for joining us every single day. You could be an everydayer too. All you got to do is wait for it. Join us every single day. We're gonna talk a little bit of offensive line today, and in particular, Anton Harrison, second-year player out of Oklahoma, who I think is a very, very good player. So let me tell you where we're going. One place we're going is I had to do this. We're gonna have a little bit of fun. I love when guys have little quirks about them and little things that they love doing. Anton loves talking about food, right? But he kind of has some of the worst food takes I've ever heard. Every now and then he'll hit one out of the park too. I'm gonna get to those food takes and talk about Anton. Maybe I can start calling him the chef, man, and create a nickname for him that'll kind of stick a little bit for people. I'm also going to tell you in segment 2 how the rest of his team, what it would mean if the rest of his team, the rest of those guys on the offensive line, if they show up way more than they did last year, particularly the guys on the interior right next to him. If they have a better year, then I think what happens is, well, that means people will notice Anton more. But it's hard to notice one guy when the whole offensive line looks bad. I think he was the best rookie in the NFL last year on the offensive line, and I'm thinking that it's just going to go all the way up, and he's going to be really, really good this year, and that's why we're going to lead the show talking about him. Late first-round pick. The hole was created by the fact that Juwan Taylor was not retained. He signed a huge deal with Taylor signed a huge deal with the Kansas City Chiefs for $80 million over 4 years. Most people thought that was way out of range. Maybe a year ago it was, but now that ain't that bad when you consider what guys like Robert Hunt, guards, and other people around the league got this year. The Chiefs are looking like they got a bargain out of Juwan Taylor. I'm thinking, though, that even if they had kept Taylor, Anton Harrison would have been a really, really good pick and just play him at left tackle. Of course, this is not the slam Cam Robinson episode. That's not what we're doing here. But it does say something about getting younger and having a couple of guys in their early to mid-20s playing those positions. Even though Cam Robinson, I think, 26, 27, he's not that old either. But at some point, you feel like this team's going to have to make a tougher choice about Cam Robinson than that decision is going to be a little bit tougher, in my opinion, than the decision that they had to make on Juwan Taylor. So that didn't happen, and they drafted Anton Harrison. I thought it was a good pick when they picked it. It's just that I felt that all they were doing was replacing someone who had left, and I was concerned that the Jaguars were never going to be able to elevate doing that just by replacing foundational pieces. But it worked like a charm, man. The dude, in my opinion, was one of the better tackles in the league, and he was definitely the best rookie in the league. Left him alone early in the year against Chris Jones one-on-one, and that isn't ideal. But I do like the fact that the Jaguars probably had so much confidence in his ability and who he was that what they decided to do was just roll with it and hope it works out. I wish they hadn't done that because Chris Jones is a first ballot Hall of Famer, and well, it just made him look bad. But he didn't suck. You did not see Anton Harrison do what a lot of rookies do, and that is hit this wall. No, he played better as the year went on, and he's really the type of player when you look at it. And I don't know if he'll ever move to left tackle or if by them drafting this year, the kid out of Missouri, Javon, if by drafting him, that means that maybe to leave Anton Harrison where he is and just let him sort of be their Lane Johnson for, the next decade or so. We'll just have to wait and see how that goes. But it is good to have someone at that position that we can consider one of the 10 best in the league at his spot. And I do think he's already there. And I think this year it's going to go up. A lot of the reasons why I believe that is I think he's healthier this year. He played through injury last year. He had like an arm or a shoulder injury. He's healthier this year. He has an NFL offseason. He probably has changed his diet a little bit. I'm glad I mentioned diet because he has some crazy food takes. We're going to make sure we talk about those. But he's just the type of dude, man. He has done it on social media with those takes that I talked about. He is engaged, but he's really, really good on the field. And the engagement that you see on social media is really a bonus, And you always want guys to be good first and friendly next. Well, he's good and friendly at the same time, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But he's a really, really good player, man. He does a lot of things right. Prior to Washington, D.C. and Norman, Oklahoma, really, really, I think he made people, his former teammate, Guyton, the kid that got drafted this year, got drafted higher than him, and I don't even think Guyton was as good a player. And this year's draft was more loaded than last year's draft. So it just tells you sometimes people can look at a situation and go, wow, that dude is really good. This is what I told people that happened with Jamar Chase, even though everybody knew how good Chase was. There was a stamp put on that when the guy picked 27th the year before goes to the NFL and blows the NFL up and looks like, at that time, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, and Justin Jefferson. And he's right now, he's number one or number two, depending on who you talk to. Well, it was a no-brainer the next year to say, well, we saw him side by side, and if that guy's that good, look at him. And that's exactly what happened, in my opinion, with Jamar Chase. Although Chase was always ranked higher than Jefferson, Anton was actually ranked higher than Guyton, but Guyton improved and won the process. Teams take notice when guys come into the league ready to play because they say, okay, he's ready to go. We know what it looks like when it comes from that school and that program and those coaches, and they were the same coaches. So we're going to take a flyer on this kid. I think sometimes that's what happens, and, you end up owing a guy a check without even knowing you owe him a check. But Anton Harrison is a good player. He's one of those foundational pieces. I already rank him as one of the Jaguars' 10 best football players. And I think the future is up for him. I know it is. In fact, I'm going to tell you how other people can start noticing that. And this is where the group plan comes into play. Other teams will notice it when the unit as a whole gets better and the Jaguars win more games and more eyes go on them, and then you'll have more people talking about him. I saw the late, great John Madden, a video of him talking about the late, great Larry Allen, and I pinned it on my profile on the X app because that it shows the younger generation just how good both of those guys were at what they did, but how when somebody talks about you like that, how it can actually grow your brand to the point where you become unforgettable. So we'll talk about Anton Harrison and how others can actually help him get noticed as being one of the best in the National Football League. We'll do that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. Today's show is brought to you and sponsored by eBay Motors. Listen, passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning football championships in any sport, but it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. All right, second segment here, segment number 2 here on Locked On Jaguars on this beautiful day in North Florida. I think it's about 85, 86 outside with a little breeze. Woo! Feels good to be living in North Florida. I'm going to tell you, I already told you how I think Anton Harrison, how good I think he is. I told you how good I think he's going to be, and I don't think there's a limit to it. I think by the time that this year ends, most people will put him in the top 5 of Jaguars offensive linemen of all time. Yeah, I just said it. Of course, you got the Hall of Famer Tony Baselli and his running mate Leon Searcy, and then Brad Meester is definitely in consideration for that. And then it's either I think it might be Vince Manawai after that people may have put up there, but Anton Harrison is coming, man. I no disrespect to Cam Robinson, but he's the best offensive lineman on that line to me. He has the biggest upside, the most talent. I just think he's going to have a monster year after having an entire offseason of NFL strength and conditioning and diet and all of that stuff, and getting that shoulder fixed. What he played through with injuries last year is going to get probably a little bigger in the lower body. I really do believe that this is his year, and his talent speaks for itself, but his work ethic is another thing. I hear he's a tremendous, tremendous worker, and that the coaches couldn't be more happy with him. And when you start talking about young guys in that way, it goes back to something that I've said in the past, and that is I love guys that love the process. I love the guys that put as much time into the process as they do to how the uniform looks on game day, because that process is going to determine what you do on game day more than anything else. The work you put in will be on full display. I think on Sundays when you're sitting in front of your TV, or hopefully you're at that game, I guess, especially when the season starts, if your look towards the sideline or your look towards the Jaguars is, if it could be verbalized, the whole thing comes down to this. Okay, let me see what you've been doing. To me, when I see a team early in the season, I say, let me see what you've been doing. Nothing tells me what a team has been up to more than how they play the game. Nothing. So that's why I always harp on and I always talk about guys that love that process, because if you don't, when the season starts, we'll see it. I think a trained eye will see it. You'll definitely see it. The work speaks for itself. That's why everybody's going crazy about Parker Washington. Parker Washington looks different. I mean, he's always in shape. He's a real thick-legged guy. But this year, he still looks muscular. He looks a little quicker, looks a little smaller. It looks like Parker Washington absolutely put that work in. And that's why you can't, deny the fact that they probably see a huge role for him down the road. That's going to probably mean that there's somebody that you really, really like. A year or two, they won't be there, and Parker Washington will be in the slot. I think that's Christian Kirk. I think they're going to have a reason. I think it is his job to push them so far to make them look up, and Christian will go into that fourth year of that 4-year deal where the amount of money that he's supposed to make is astronomical. And I know I'm not pushing for this to happen. I'm telling you, if stuff like this happens, this is how you grow. When a team has to make a tough decision, Parker Washington needs to make that decision very, very tough. I think, along with the young guys that have already re-signed, the ones that they're going to sign later on, Trevor Lawrence getting his deal, ETN still being on a contract for a couple of years, I think it's a key that they have this tackle spot fixed. Also, knowing that in a pinch, you could move him to his more natural position of left tackle gives the Jaguars a tremendous amount of flexibility when it comes to thinking about Cam Robinson, or thinking about, whether Javon Foster is going to develop, what they're going to have him walk a little by the end of this year. That's a whole nother thing for another show, but do they decide that, okay, we've seen enough upside from Walker, we're going to give him a little bit of a nest egg to hang around and try to offer him something in the middle of the season at a bargain, and all of that stuff. It gives you the versatility to make decisions that you normally wouldn't have to make. Now, one thing that has to happen is the others have to play better. And by that, I mean the new center, Mitch Morse, and then the two guards, Ezra Cleveland and Brandon Sheriff. And the reason why that's important, because that area, that interior area, maybe not so much with Sheriff, but the other side, the fact that they went out 2 straight off seasons and tried to get a left guard at the trade deadline, combined with the fact that we have all seen Luke Fortner be like, I mean, it's just, there's like no resistance, right? So that needs to be fixed. When that's fixed, I told y'all a long time ago, one bad offensive line will make a whole offensive line look bad. Just think about it. Those guys have to be in steps like the Temptations. They have to know. Guys are pulling the other way. If you're not careful, you'll be knocked on and stepping all over each other, right? The thing with me is it's hard for them to be that way when one guy is not right. And then the whole group, all the choreography goes out of the window when someone isn't playing well. And it takes, unless you're an all 22 guy and you're going to sit here and grade everybody. And I know some people are, and I will admit I'm not, unless I'm looking for something very, very specific. It really doesn't allow the, people to really pay attention to one guy and say, well, he's playing well. Because if all of them aren't playing well, shout out to Fred Gurgis, who told me in high school, Fred Gurgis Sr. said, y'all got to be a team, because if we're all under one blanket and one of us passes gas, then we're all going to stink. And that's the truth. That's what the offensive line. One guy gets blown up, the whole thing gets blown up, and the whole unit looks like they need to get fixed. And I was probably a little bit of a slave to that last year, because that's really what I thought. And I wasn't ready to give anybody the benefit of the doubt. And it's understandable, because Trevor Lawrence is such a big part and the main resource for this team if they're ever going to get better. You want to see him protected, and you want to see him upright. Anton Harrison is definitely one of those people that can help that situation. But in order for his potential to be recognized by everyone else, the rest of that unit has to actually play better. They have to play better. There's not another unit on this team that is made up of multiple parts that play all at one time, that if one guy makes a mistake, it can make it look so bad. And to add injury to insult with that, a team can be a really good team, but if they have a bad offensive line, they will not look very good either. You got to be able to block people. You got to be able to knock people back. And then you got to be able to prevent people from knocking your people down when they get the ball and making your quarterback do things outside of his character because he's trying to play hero ball. Because he doesn't know how much longer he had. It looked like Trevor sometimes didn't know how much longer he had to live on Sunday. He just felt like at some point somebody was going to hurt him. You know what I mean? So Trevor was trying to get as much done as he could. It even led to him concealing a little bit of a headache one night, and then he got hurt again, and he threw an awful interception. So the thing is, man, it just has to be better on the offensive line. Everybody has to improve. Everybody has to do their job. And then maybe more people will recognize the fact that Anton is doing his. Now, Anton is doing a good job on social media. He's doing a good job in football, like I said. But my man has some of the weirdest food takes on earth, right? Weirdest food takes on earth. Some of them are okay. And then others are, well, I'll be like, really, dude? And see, I don't like being too familiar with people I don't know. Now, I've actually never met him because at the times I was at practice, he was out, and we didn't stick around for a lot of locker room. So I'm going to go through some of these food takes, bro. And I'm going to let you know a lot of what Anton Harrison had to say about his food takes. I'm going to read some of them if I can find them all. So we'll get to that. He has a good YouTube page too. It's at HOHTONN if you guys want to check him out on YouTube, Anton Harrison. He's talking about everything, man. He takes questions. He gives out food advice, cooking advice, all of these stuff. He said something today about Twizzlers. He said it was the greatest candy ever. And that's where we're going to start when I start disagreeing with him, because I can't stand Twizzlers, especially the black one. We'll discuss that here in the third and final segment and have a little fun talking about rookie Anton Harrison. We'll do it in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. Third and final segment here on Locked On Jaguars. We're at your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen. And if you're tired of watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day, If you have to turn down the volume with all that yelling and screaming and shouting, and you can put it on mute and you can still hear them, yeah, well, you need to make the switch to Locked On Sports today. A free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Yeah, man. My man Anton Harrison said that Twizzlers was like the greatest candy ever. He didn't say movie theater. I would disagree if he just said movie theater. But he said Twizzlers. He said Twizzlers were the best, were the absolute best. All right. I disagree. Tell me on social media in the comments if you agree with him. All right. Tell me. Yeah, I'm gonna call him Anton the Chef because I see him here with chef's gear on. So I'm gonna go through some of this stuff. Someone asked, what's one thing you don't like on your burger? He says tomatoes easily. They could never make me love you. My wife doesn't like tomatoes on her burger. And then there was another dude I saw, used to be on Netflix. He didn't like tomatoes on burger. I love tomatoes. My friend James Coleman, he likes turkey and tomato sandwich with mayonnaise. He says it's great. So while I used to eat tomatoes when I was a kid, I used to eat them like an apple. So I don't know why everybody just doesn't like tomatoes these days. But since he's not alone in that, that's not that bad. Okay. All right. So he's talking about cereal. He says, a person who eats cereal any time of the day, my official top 3 are Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I will co-sign for that. Frosted Flakes, I will co-sign for that. It's not my top 3, but it's right there, okay? I will give it to you. And then he says Tricks or Fruit Loops. You can take Tricks and Fruit Loops and throw them wherever you got them from. Those kind of cereal, I call them, they play too much, right? Because as soon as you put the milk on them, I think they're gone. I think all the flavor's gone. Now, he has one of my favorites in his worst 3. His worst 3 are Lucky Charms. I totally agree with him. Marshmallows have absolutely no place in cereal. And then mini wheats. But he says / Captain Crunch, and that's where I got a problem. And I got a problem with the other one, which is Raisin Bran. I like Raisin Bran. And it's brand, B-R-A-N, not brand at time, is Raisin Bran. Maybe you were eating Raisin Brand, and that's why it didn't taste the same if they came from like a dollar store or something. But mini wheats, Captain Crunch should not be on here because number 1 on my list is Crunch Berries. Crunch Berries is the greatest cereal ever made. Now, I will tell you this something about Crunch Berries, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and Cookie Crisp. They will tear the roof of your mouth up. Now, yeah, I said roof. It might be ceiling. Whatever part of your mouth is at the top that's right in front of your tonsils are going to get ate up. And don't eat that with hot sauce on it all day if you ate a whole bunch of that cereal early in the morning because it is going to be bad. He says it is nothing wrong with eating breakfast for dinner. Stop telling me it is, and he is exactly right. My wife and I, every now and then, not all the time, because if you do that, you can't turn around and eat it back again. But we've been out, and it'd be like midnight, and we need dinner, and Waffle House is right there. There's been times she's cooked a breakfast for like at like 8 o'clock at night. You want to eat some breakfast? Yeah, let's eat some breakfast. So I ain't got no problem with that. All right. He told somebody, I think Jarian Jones, his teammate, cooked some eggs. I don't know what it is. He cut some little sausages up in it and put some of that hot sauce on there that I keep telling people, y'all use too much hot sauce. And he put taco cheese on it. So basically, Jarian, he needs to stop too. He basically made taco eggs for breakfast. Anton said the eggs are overcooked already. Put the cheese in the eggs before you cook them and then throw away that hot sauce and you'll be fine. I agree with him 1,000% when it comes to that. That's right. Here's one I disagree with. He says, if you don't like Golden Grams, you ain't go to public elementary school or middle school. They didn't give us Golden Grams. The Golden Grams were old people cereal, right? I guess it's cinnamon graham toast crunch. It's like you didn't have to do that. Just leave it the way it was. Just leave it the way it was with cinnamon toast crunch. You didn't have to go getting all fancy, getting your Food Network on. It's like those people that cook on holidays sometimes. Instead of just cooking the links and the burgers and the hot dogs the way it's supposed to be, they get all Food Network and start stuffing stuff and making pinwheels with blue cheese all wrapped up in it. Ain't nobody trying to hit that on a holiday, man. Just keep it simple, okay? Just absolutely keep it simple. I want y'all to make sure y'all tap in now to Anton's page on YouTube. And he says he's going to put out a food blog if everyone does enough of it. So there you go, man. Anton Harrison is running it down, giving us the food. And today he said Twizzlers are the best candy in the world. I think he's lost his natural mind. I like Reese's peanut butter cups, but I don't know if you consider that a candy. But even if you don't consider it a candy, I'll just go with peanut M&Ms. And I ain't much of a candy dude now. I will tell you this: the best candy I had when I was growing up were those green Jolly Ranchers. Yeah. I'm gonna ask him one day to do those ice cream trucks that sell. They don't just sell ice cream; they sell everything. If they still rolling through Southeast DC, because they used to do that when I was a kid. They used to do that when I was a kid, man. They used to really. They had everything on there. They had honey buns. They had stuff. They had noodles you can warm up in a microwave. It was incredible. They used to warm stuff up for you right there. They had Lunchables, all kinds of stuff when I was growing up. I wonder if ice cream trucks sell more than ice cream in DC still. We will find out. But the bottom line is Anton Harrison can really play. And he does have some interesting food takes that I actually do kind of like. Make sure you check him out on his YouTube page. I'm going to try to get him on to talk about his crazy food takes. If we don't do it soon, I'll try to get it. Make sure we talk to him about that during training camp. Make sure y'all tap into Locked On Sports today, man. It is the absolute truth. And because Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. All right, man, you guys take care. Enjoy your weekend. Make sure you tap in. You can always go back on YouTube, check out any of the Locked On podcasts. You can do that also wherever you get your podcast audio-wise. Make sure you tap in. And say you're a veteran and you're from Jacksonville, or you're a Jacksonville native, or you just love the Jaguars and you're halfway around the world and you can't get all of the information you need. Well, all you got to do is check Locked On Jaguars. We're on any platform where you get podcasts, and you can have a little bit of taste at home. Trust me, I'm telling you that because I have been there before. 7 straight years away from home, about 3.5 of them abroad. We had one network, and whatever we saw was like 2 years old. I had already seen it already. All right, you guys take care, man, and we'll be here every single day with you on Locked On Jaguars.